Welcome, everyone, to the Pleiadian podcast. We're so glad to have you here this week. We are really in for a big treat this week. We are going to be talking about sacred geometry and manifestation, and also timelines and quantum leaping, and how this all works together, and how you are actually like the actual mechanics on the quantum energetic level of what's actually happening with what reality you're experiencing, and especially when we see things in our world that don't necessarily seem to add up with what our inner experience is, and how can this be my highest timeline when this looks like my external reality. And so we have a really juicy episode for you. I'm so excited to dive into this, and we are so blessed and lucky to have Shylo Dawn here with us today, who is really an expert in multidimensionality and quantum leaping. This is really her sweet spot, and what she really has a passion for teaching and is really knowledgeable in. So I just know we're going to have such a juicy episode for you all. And welcome, Shylo. I'm so excited to dive into this with you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to dive into this topic because, when we truly understand the power that we yield within us, we become unstoppable. And I say that in a way of really getting to create and dreamweave our dream life. And there are different aspects and roadmaps that really assist us in achieving that. And there's many tools to help us to achieve that as well. And I love talking about sacred geometry and bringing this knowledge back online because it's really nothing new, right? Our ancient ancestors, ancient civilizations all over the world. Like if you go to ancient Egypt, or you go to a place, an ancient city like Chichen Itza in Mexico, these places, these ancient ruins all over the world, they're embedded with sacred geometry. And so they knew the power that this really technology, right, this energetic technology yields. And so sacred geometry is the key to all manifestation. And the baseline in that is that it is the foundation of sacred architecture. And so when we think of everything as being energy on an energetic level, how is it the foundation of all manifestation? Well, everything that comes into our realm of existence is coming from a higher dimension, right? And so we can think of it as, right, we're getting downloads or thoughts or ideas. It's coming in as light, frequency, sound, vibration. And as that comes into our field, our subtle bodies receive it, our auric field receives it. We start to translate that information, and it comes up as an idea, as a vision. It comes into our dream space. Like all things that have been created, everything that you see around you started with a thought. It started with an idea. Well, where did that really truly come from, right? It's coming from these higher realms, and we're receiving it. And then we get to choose if we're going to do something with it, right? And so as that light, frequency, sound, and vibration is coming in from these higher dimensional realms, which are not so dense, not so material. So when it actually hits the density of the three-dimensional realm, it starts to create formations. And those formations then create all things, all life, which if you've ever had any sort of psychedelic experience, whether that be through meditation, through plant medicine, through breath work, just in your dream space, you most likely have experienced all of a sudden, in between you and all things, there's this sacred geometric field that appears. And you're like, what is this? Why am I seeing the flower of life weaving in between me and the wall, or me and nature, or the person that's sitting in front of me? Well, the answer to that is it's always there. And now you're bringing an awareness to it because your frequency is raised to a point where now you're seeing past just the physicality, and you're getting to see into the unseen realms. And so the energetics in that are sacred geometry. And so I'm going to dive into a couple of formations of sacred geometry. And the first one being Metatron's cube. And this is one of my favorite ones to work with because the power that it yields And we're going to get into some of the light and the shadow aspects of this, because with everything, right? A message that my guides give me often is, and this is like a corny line from Spider-Man. It's like, with, great power comes great responsibility. And we can chuckle at that. And also there's so much truth in that. Right. So Metatron's cube, which I'm actually going to pull it up here just so you can take a look at what this formation actually looks like. And so if you're just listening, you can go and Google Metatron's cube. It'll pop up immediately and you can take a look. But if you're watching on YouTube, please take a look at this formation right now. And I want you just to take a moment here and to just be with it and tune into, is this the first time you've seen this? Have you seen it many times before? I know for myself, this symbol just started showing up for me, like randomly showing up everywhere in my life. It was like calling me forward to learn more about the energetics. And so I'm gonna actually just leave it up here for a moment while I'm speaking about it, because what you can see is there's 13 circles, right? And if you know anything about what Ava and I do, right, it's all around the power of 13. The 13 frequency is the original blueprint of the human that's coming, the original human coming back online. And what that means, right, is we have 13 strands of DNA, right? There's 13 levels of dimensionality leading up to our higher self, right? There's, I don't want to dive too deep into it because it can get juicy, but if you're interested in the power of 13, we have a whole episode on the power of 13. Go check that out. You can do a deep dive. It will not disappoint. Trust me when I say that. I know I would say the same thing. But you can see there's 13 circles here, and those 13 spheres are actually pillars of light connecting the heavens to the earth. Basically, it's a bridge to these higher realms. It's a bridge to your higher self. And those 13 spheres also connect into the angelic realm as well. And so there's a lot of light and the frequency of unconditional love. And, I could do a whole podcast episode just on this symbol. And so I'm not going to deep dive too much into it. But something that was downloaded to me through working in the unseen realms with Enoch is that when Enoch ascended the city of Zion, there was actually a shift in the way that reality was actually formed through these sacred geometric symbols and formation. And when Enoch ascended into Metatron, Archangel Metatron, and ascended the city of Zion, this symbol was then embedded in all things. And so what I mean by that is Metatron's cube holds all 5 platonic solids. So that means that the 5 platonic solids, right, being air, water, earth, fire, and ether. And so as it was embedded in all things, this symbol is the energetic makeup of all life and also the unseen realms, energy, right, ether. And so it was embedded in all life and all things to give us a clue that we can actually tune in. Like, this formation is actually embedded in your DNA. And so as we have downloads, light frequency that come in, it starts to activate the remembrance of the information, which is infinite, that is stored within this symbol, that exists within your being, in nature, in water, in fire. It's why all of these sacred elements that we work with can also remind us who we are. Right? It's why in indigenous, people are so connected into nature, right? Nature is their temple because the information is embedded in all things. And so we can get it through going within. We can get it by stepping into nature. We can get it by being in the ocean. We can get it by communing with the fire. Right? We can get it by communing with ether. And so there's so much in here for us to discover, and it can be this self-discovery process as well. And so it was embedded in us as a roadmap, as a blueprint to teach us or guide us through this ascension process. And so if you're feeling called to this symbol, right, there's something within it for you to learn, to deep dive, to be with. So I'm gonna talk about this a little more when we bring DiYeena into the space, but I just wanted to give a little brief description on this specific symbol so you know what it looks like. You can feel into it. I'm sure this isn't the first time you've seen it. Or if it is, it's like, ooh, I feel something when I'm communing with this. So I'm going to take it off the screen now. And is there anything that you want to add to that, or anything coming up for you, Ava, before I move on to the flower of life?
Yeah. So, like it's just interesting how that was your download. Like that's not something you're going to just find. You're not going to be able to just Google that kind of information, right? This is channeled material that's coming through that's really here. And it's like we're really piecing all these pieces together from these channels and these downloads that we're both receiving, and we're getting kind of all these different pieces, and just the power that all of these things have that we're still even pulling all together, right? And so it's like it gets to be this kind of opening and this discovery together as we're on this journey all collectively here, reawakening, remembering our original blueprint, our original design as creative beings, as manifestors. Like we are manifestors at our core. We are powerful creators at our core. And this is just one aspect or way of looking at it. And the thing that I love about even just the human body, if you were to really delayer yourself layer by layer of like just kind of like peeling off skin by skin by like, you just imagine yourself kind of these infinite layers of density. If you were to kind of be able to pull your skin apart and your being apart, if you were able to do that layer by layer, what you'd begin to see is there layer upon layer upon layer of sacred geometrical patterns that's all put into density, that's put into these light beings. They're literally a being of light.
Mhm.
And so it's just interesting that even our patterning as these quote unquote, how DiYeena likes to say, meat suit, this density that isn't actually dense at all is really these light formations that are held together through this magnetism of our creative willpower, and that we're actually getting to choose these, even the shape of our own form, right? Is we're literally breathing life into our form. So this is just like one layer of remembrance of just the power that we all hold and are using consciously and unconsciously all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, so beautifully said. And that's a great point of like, this is channeled information, right? And so, to as I just had you tuning into that symbol, like tune into it, ask what's there for you. Believe in your ability to also be this conscious channel that's tapping into this incredible wisdom that the universe holds and yields, and then it really does exist within you. Because as I was saying, as you pull the layers, right, it's literally all of these patterns, and we can see how all of these patterns are laid out, right, in our everyday life as well. Everything comes down to these patterns. And so I'm going to then go into the next place with that, because when we even think of like the next formation that we want to speak on is the flower of life. And you can actually just see it right here on, what would you call this? The backsplash, or
Yeah, the backsplash of it's all over our branding. So
all of our,
that
yeah.
design that you see on everything, on our logo, on the backsplash of this page, for those of you that are on YouTube, it's there. It's the symbol that you see there. It's the what do you call that, over the overlapping pattern of the circles that interlink.
I didn't want to use a backsplash because I was like thinking that's something that my mother would say, and I just don't feel like it's like in the right realm of age that we're in, but it works. Okay, perfect. So the sacred geometric formation of the flower of life, it is it's in all of our branding, and we utilize it and we bring it in because it really is this powerful seed of all creation. And within it, we can utilize this formation to manifest and weave in the power of creation, because within this center point of the flower of life, we have the 0 point of all creation, where creation itself is birthed, exist out of. And that's the place where we're receiving that information and those downloads. It's coming from the 0 point, right? It's this ever expanding consciousness through the universe that's really living through the lens of our experience and our being here. And so whatever it is that you desire to create gets to be created, and it starts through that center point, which is then the seed of all creation, right? And the center of the seed of all creation is the Vesica Pisces. And so these terms, right, are really tuning into the power that exists within this. And so, you know, we've really been tuning into, okay, how does the flower of life co-weave with timelines and quantum leaping and manifestation and all of these pieces? Because, right, as the flower of life comes and weaves together, it connects all things, right? And so it also brings us into this unified field. It doesn't matter how far, right? If you're in the center point, all the way on the very edge of the universe or on the edge of existence, it's still weaving through, right? And so these patterns that we speak of, right? These patterns create this divine design off of each choice point. It's how the divine design and free will weave together. And, you know, we've done a whole deep dive podcast on that as well. So you can find that if you want to tune in a little bit deeper. But what we will say on that is that every time you make a choice, and if we saw it on without the density, right, in more of an energetic kind of taking the veil out, we can actually see the energetics of what's taking place. Every choice point you make, every step forward that you take, it illuminates a pathway of the formation of the flower of life. And through that choice, through the free will of the choices that you make, then this beautiful, intricate divine design is then created, it's illuminated. And then from the next choice point, again, there is a divine design that's and then illuminated from that pathway. And it makes this beautiful sacred geometric formation. And then through somebody else in the co-creation, right? In this collective consciousness, they're making a choice point. It's then illuminating. And then you'll notice that they start to weave and web together, which is how we have our own individual experience that we are manifesting and creating. And then we have this collective co-creation, and we're all co-creating with the divine, God, source, universe, whatever you want to say in that, because that is the design that's coming off. And we're just choosing to be in the physicality, walking it, experiencing it, feeling it, moving through the process of it. And I feel like there's some pieces that you want to say on that as well, Ava.
We're so tuned into each other. It's fun.
Uh-huh.
But what I was gonna say is that what I'm being shown as you're talking actually is that our forms, our bodies are actually um, they're dancing right along with this pattern. So it's like you can see it's not so linear, like you're stepping and all of a sudden there's this pathway in front of you, the way that we think of like walking down the street. It's like it's coming out from your heart space, the same pattern, the same flower of life in this geometric pattern that's literally rippling out infinitely in all directions. And so it's like it's not this linear pattern, but it's actually this multidimensional thing that's happening all around you, and that is connecting in with other beings as well. And it's creating this ripple out in all directions and all timelines and through all space and time. And the way that it's like the discernment or the decisions, it's like it's illuminating certain aspects of choice of attention and awareness, where we want to put our attention and awareness of what we want to choose to experience as these individualized fractals in consciousness, right? So at the same time, you have another fractal of consciousness, otherwise known as a soul, the way that DiYeena talks about it, is that you have, you know, another soul over here choosing a different experience, illuminating a different part of consciousness, right? And so it's like we're all making these free will choices to illuminate and experience different aspects and different angularities of the whole. And so it's a really fascinating weave of how we're all kind of webbing together in this creation of life. It's really, really quite profound when you start to begin to imagine what this might actually look like if you could see it all lit up.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Mhm.
would love for you to share how we get to the point of it fully being in the full illumination where
Mm.
possible, because there are a few different ways that we can really get into the full illumination of that pattern.
Yeah, so this is a really juicy topic that both DiYeena, for those who are maybe new, DiYeena is the Pleiadian that comes through and channels through me. Other beings that come through, one of the other ones is Magdalene, and both of these beings have shared similar aspects or similar thoughts around the ways that we choose to, the ways that we manifest, right, which was kind of touched upon, is either through this decision making and this activation of the certain aspects of the pattern of consciousness, where we get to illuminate our choice points, right, and we get to actually move forward from that space. And what they were saying, so I think this was specifically Magdalene who was talking about this, and she said that when you're having sex, she said in the moment of divine union, and I think this is, she didn't use the word orgasm here. And I think that there is a specific reason for that. I think orgasm is included in this. And what I'm intuiting through kind of reading between the lines is it feels like what she's speaking to is the aspect of divine union itself. So when the masculine and the feminine energetics, it doesn't mean necessarily man and woman necessarily, or male and female, but the polarities, right? The masculine and the feminine polarities are activated. Those energetics coming into union, what that does in the power of love, that moment of love and orgasm, what it does is it illuminates not just a pathway, not just a decision. So when you're making that decision, you have a pathway, right? Like a neuron lighting up, right? You have a pathway that's choosing to light up in consciousness of what you're choosing. When in the moment of sex, in that moment of union, the entirety of creation illuminates the whole freaking thing. And so in that moment, all is possible. All possibilities exist. All manifestation is possible in that moment. And so this is why sex magic is such a thing in both directions, for the light and the dark, is because there are those who actually know how to work with these frequencies, that know what is actually happening in that moment, and the power of sex itself, and what that actually does in the quantum realm, in the quantum energetic realm, and what's actually happening in your physical, emotional, energetic body. When all of those aspects converge, what is actually possible in those realms. So that is really the power. It's an example of the power of the human. And that is actually probably one of the easiest ways to really come into that space of activating the fullness of your creative potential, right? There are other ways to do that, right? And that's a lot of what Jesus and Mary Magdalene actually taught, was how to work with what you're talking about, the five platonic solids and these 5 aspects of creation. They were teaching how to master all of these elements within the form. So really understanding how to work with these frequencies within the form. And they would go through it one at a time, and then they would bring them together to really understand and master the aspect of being a creative, powerful, creative being, right? Like that is really what we're here for. And that is really our potentiality as humans. And that's what they taught. That's really what they taught. And sex was really a big part of that. And not to say that they were necessarily using sex in and of itself, like that, or from what's channeled through, is that wasn't actually necessarily the case. It was actually more in the energetic realms. They were really working on that emotional, energetic level rather than on the physical level. And so that's another piece of distinction, and I think isn't necessarily always talked about, or always isn't some common knowledge, but it is really a fascinating deep dive here. And that really ties in really beautifully into just like when you think about how all possibilities illuminate in that moment, or in any moment where we are in the full potential of our creative expansion, how we really get to choose. We really get to choose what timeline we're experiencing, what timeline we're playing out, and what we're experiencing within our reality, right, Shylo?
Exactly. And this is how, right, a buzzword of like quantum leaping, timeline jumping, right, manifestation, the true pathway in that is really coming into an empowered state to remember that we are these powerful creators and that these are ancient teachings that are coming back online through the light and frequency that we're embodying more of that, and it's coming online just as you were speaking, right? The energetics and Jesus and Magdalene really teaching the embodiment of these energetics, the platonic solids within, really tuning into the power that we yield, and the different pathways to really tune into that. And you spoke into the emotional aspect of that, and that this is one of the biggest one of the most important points that I would really like to make in, well, someone asking, well, how do we quantum leap, right? I've tried manifestation before, and my external reality still isn't matching the internal state that I'm feeling. And one of the important parts and pieces of that is making sure your emotional state is in resonance with the highest timeline or highest version of self. And so all of you, the wholeness of you really needs to all be in the same resonance. And so, this is even the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, which is why he loves doing walking meditations. If you've ever looked into his work, and he's actually done a lot of the science behind this, because we can be in meditation in the morning and be visualizing and be breathing and tuning in and really feeling this highest timeline, highest version of self. And that's great. And that is part of it, right? It's part of what we teach. And so that is the baseline to it. But then when we go about our day and step into life, if we're not in the same resonance, right, we can get pulled out of that quickly, right? The emotional state can really come through within the day. We're being triggered or overwhelmed over here, whatever the aspect that might be coming in. We're still giving our power away. Maybe we're still not speaking your truth. And there's aspects of where you can really tune into your reality and say, well, what is not in resonance with my highest self? Question that I ask myself, and I try and be as conscious as I can in this with almost every decision and choice that I make throughout the day, is, would the highest aspect of myself be choosing this pathway? Right? And so the times where it's like, I want to say yes, but I'm going to say no, or I want to say no, but I'm going to say yes. Oh, I'm back home for Christmas with my family, and they're doing that triggering thing again. And instead of using my voice and creating some healthy boundaries, because that is what the highest aspect of me would do, I'm just going to stay quiet. And so because of this emotional charge, we usually falter, we fault back to the default of the internal frequency of the old way of being. And so it keeps us actually anchored, or I think Ava used the word, and I really like this, hooked into that timeline through the emotional state. And so knowing that your reality is always going to mirror back to all of the places that you are not yet free. And when you can come into an empowered place and remember that all of life is happening for you, and if there's something that's less desirable, that's still not matching that highest reality, that highest version of self, or that highest timeline, know that it's here for you. Because when we also do that quantum leap and quantum jump, those identities, those old identities that belong to that old timeline. Like I once in an experience where I was doing a big timeline jump, quantum leap, where I was in the multidimensional realms, I was in the ether. The message that came through was that my old life was going to cost me my new one. And what I took from that was the habits, right? The places that I know that I'm not living up to my highest potential, right? These really subtle pieces throughout the day, they had to go. They had to be laid to rest. They had to die or be alchemized, as I like to say, because the ego sometimes doesn't like the word death. It feels too permanent. So the ego can kind of cling on. So I like to really bring my ego in for this experience, going, we're actually all, you're coming along with me. I need you, right? In the human experience, we need the egoic self. It's part of it. It's part of what makes us human. Do you want to come along with me into this higher aspect of ourselves and alchemize into that. More parts of you are usually on board knowing that, yeah, I'm ready to alchemize or transmute higher, rather than like those old ways are actually going to be, dying, because, death is truly one of the biggest illusions that we have in this reality. It's really just a transition, right? Energy can never die, it can only shift and transform. And so just know that you have the power in any moment. It can be a subtle shift of just taking a pause throughout your day and breathing into, if you feel like you're charged in an old way of being, right? Because when you choose higher, right, all of those aspects of yourself that were operating in the old way, they're going to maybe come up and be a little louder. And you're going to have your reality start to mirror back opportunities for you to choose higher. So it might even seem like, oh, I just chose the higher timeline. Why is all this stuff happening? It's an opportunity to start choosing higher and put it into practice and put it into life, instead of just sitting in meditation and at the altar space, because it can be easy to do there. But can you embody it into life, into form? And yeah, Ava, I know you have some aspects on that as well.
Well, I'm just kind of taking this and I'm just wanting to put it into like some practicality for people, because I just feel like, I'm just going to go there because it just feels like even the election that we just experienced here in the US, it's a very polarizing experience for most people. Like there's this energy no matter where you stand in this discussion, right? That's not the point here. There's there's a lot of emotionality around it, right? There's a lot of emotionality. So here I'm hearing you say, we have these infinite possibilities. We're talking about lighting up possibilities on this flower of life that's in our bodies that we get to experience. We just have to go in to our heart space and make the shift internally, right? And it's like, okay, we can go in there, we can do these things. And then, like you said, it's like, well, then how come my external reality is not changing? It's like, okay, we still have this president, or whatever the case may be. It's like, it's not changing. What's going on? Why is, and so that's where you're talking about these hooks, these emotional hooks. It's like, okay, well, what is your experience, right, around this hot topic, right? It's like, do you have an emotional charge around who's president right now, or what the state of the world is? Do you have this doomsday mentality, or do you have this completely like we're in the best timeline? Like where is your energy around what's actually happening in this version of timeline that we're all choosing to consciously experience together? And so I'm just curious, like, how do you respond to people who really have these very practical questions of like, I'm doing my internal work and it's not changing my external reality? Like, how do I actually, like, what am I missing here? I think is what a lot of people are wondering here in this process. It's like it seems too etheric. It doesn't like, what's something I can actually grab onto, and what's something that I can actually work with to actually understand this in a little bit more tangible way.
Mhm. Well, it's interesting, right? Because I'm hearing DiYeena's words, and we'll bring her in a little bit. But I recall her saying once to me before, is that it actually a quantum leap can happen like that. It can, if we fully are on board and choose it to be. But it's usually not that way because we have these emotional hooks, right? And so it can be this gradual process. And part of the gradual process is, do we fully trust and have faith in what's unfolding for us, and the higher aspect that we're really truly having this higher vision for? And I'll just give a personal example with that. I had someone reach out to me around the election results because I'd posted a video of saying we were can you feel the shift? We're in the higher timeline. And where I'm currently at, I'll just say, right, with the election, is when I tune in, I, first of all, am not on either side, because I really am here for something a little different. I'm here, and none of it's bad or wrong, right? I know my role is here for the energetics. And so when I'm tuning into the energetics, when I'm actually expanding my heart to feel into the infinite possibilities, I trust so deeply that where we are heading is into this higher aspect of reality. New earth is being birthed through us. And something that I had shared was, that may mean that reality shifts to the reality that you desire, right? Because as you're just saying, even with the sides, like some people are stoked and then other people are having a really hard time. And so some people, their reality is what they're desiring, and then others, it is not. And so within that aspect, it's, just what I'd shared earlier of your reality is mirroring back to all of the places that you were not yet free. And no matter what is happening on our external aspect of it, is that there's a gift in it for us of what is the emotional charge here that I'm feeling. If it's disempowered, where can you then shift that and bring yourself into an empowered state? Right? If it's a place of fear, can you start to shift out of a place of fear and into the frequency of love? And that was what DiYeena was sharing with me. DiYeena was saying that it can, because I had a moment a couple of years ago where I felt like I was on this lower timeline and it was doom and gloom. And DiYeena was laughing at me and she said, she took me through this process and she said, close your eyes and come into your heart. Can you feel the frequency of love? And I instantly said, yes. How does it feel? Peaceful, beautiful. And I'm in that frequency. And she just said, there you go. You just shifted yourself into the higher aspect. You're now magnetizing in through the frequency that your heart is, this electromagnetic field is pulsating this reality back to you. And it can be that easy. But then we fall out of that again because the emotional state hooks us back into the fear, it hooks us back into these old emotional wounds. And so what I would share with that is really tune into where the emotional charge is. And that is the gift to go in and start to alchemize and do the deeper work to really come into an empowered place. Because when you're in a place of where nothing outside of me can hold power or reign or any of these aspects, we really do become, in a place unstoppable individually, right? It's having fearless faith and certainty in what is unfolding. And I'll say, my life, especially in the last couple of years, everything has dissolved. Everything that I thought was my highest timeline and the higher aspect of life completely crumbled down around me. Talk about tower moment after tower moment after tower moment. And what that brought me down to was this place within me of I can see the higher divine pathway and maybe my individual place within me that's having this human experience isn't quite understanding, but that my faith in my higher self leading and guiding me, knowing that my higher self can see the bigger picture, and I keep hearing the message of what is unfolding for you is so much greater than what I could ever have even dream weaved myself, right? So even when we're dream weaving, the message in that, right? Because then it's like, well, then what's the point of even dream weaving if something is then like weaving with me? But it's being in the frequency, right? And so that's part of the aspect as well when we're quantum leaping in manifestation. It's coming into the frequency of having the felt sense of, this is the vision that I'm having. This is the emotional state that I would have within my being if it was already here, right? And now I'm going to take some aligned action points towards that, keeping myself in resonance. And now I'm actually letting go of attachment to where, when, why, who, completely letting go. And then you open up to that infinite possibility, the infinite possibilities that Ava was talking about, how that sacred geometric formation, the flower of life, literally just illuminates And then we get to dance and surf in consciousness. And guess what? It gets to be fun. It gets to be expansive. It gets to be exciting. And you actually just get to continue to follow your joy and what feels good and what lights you up. And what you'll realize is that you have been led down this pathway that is leading to the highest aspect of self in the highest potential. And so it's coming back into that resonance and certainty and faith, and that is what has continued to lead me down that pathway.
That's so beautiful, so well said. And as you're saying that, one of the things that's coming up for me is this piece. I was at an expo this past weekend doing readings and whatnot, and there was this woman who had a reading, and she, like many of the people actually that weekend that had readings, they were bringing up fear. They were bringing up the fear of the uncertainty in the field, in the conscious field, and in the with the election and everything else, and she was raising that concern. And she said something really interesting afterwards. She was like, I feel all this fear, but then there's also this little piece of me that actually feels excited.
Mhm.
And DiYeena went into the discernment, and this is really important for everyone to hear, the discernment between this imprint, this collective imprint that a lot of us are experiencing here, that is available for the entirety, but not everybody's choosing to play with it. But a lot of us are this imprint of fear and worry and doom and gloom and all this thing that's really amplified by social media and news and everything else. Like, it's really pumping that into the field. So that's there. It's almost like this cloud over the field. But then if you actually tune in underneath that imprint to the actual frequency and the actual energetics of the timeline that we're on, that's what she was tuning into. A part of her actually was able to tune into the actual frequency of where we're at. And she was like, whoa, this is good. Like, we're actually on like this amazing trajectory. And so it's just being able to actually discern, like, for your own self, like actually getting out of that frequency of the mind where the worry and the doom and the gloom live, right? It's actually a little bit of a disembodied place, and actually feeling into the form itself and actually getting into that heart space, getting into that 0 point frequency within the core, and actually allowing yourself to be in that space of tuning in the deepest way. That place that Shylo is talking about, where you are fully empowered because you're fully embodied and you're fully connected to what's reality, to what you're choosing consciously, right? And you're in that place of conscious choosing because you're connected into that heart space and that frequency where you do get to actually move and experience whatever reality it is that you're wanting to choose, and whatever you're wanting to experience. And that's that place. And so I just would bring that up because I just feel like it's helpful for people right now in this time where it's so easy to get lost in that cloud, in that doom and gloom space, and just to recognize that it's actually different than the actual energetic of the timeline itself. That the fear is an imprint and it's not the actual timeline.
Yeah, and I love how you just spoke into that, right? The fear is the imprint. And, we can think, and this is a place for you to really tune into where the places that you're giving your power away and leaning into the fear that's not actually even yours, right? Because that is really what takes place when these big collective, right? The big worldwide stage. Yes, there's a reality of a real thing happening, right? Right. Like the choice of a president. And there's a lot of agendas around it as well. Can we pump as much fear as we possibly can to get everyone confused and scared and pointing the finger at each other? No longer connected to, what did we talk about in the beginning? The formation of the flower of life, the unified field where all creation resides. They're disconnecting you from that through fear because now you're not in a unified state, right? You're on this side or you're on that side. Same thing happened 4 years ago, right? Are you doing the thing? Or are you not doing the thing? And so it's all about this disconnecting from each other. and disconnecting us from the truth of who we are, which is really in this unified field of oneness at the core of it. Yes, we're living this individual human experience, and the energetics, the subtleties. And so that sort of agenda actually pulls you out of your ability to create. It pulls you out of your ability to be in your power, and it creates confusion and distortion. So I love this story that Ava just shared, because, you know, the woman that did this reading, she had fear. But when Ava really brought her into her heart and said, well, what's underneath all of that? Actually, I'm feeling some relief and some excitement. And because that was her truth. The fear was imprinted from outside places, right? And so this is a place for you to, not for us to tell you what is right or wrong and what to believe or not to believe, or what side to be on or what not side to be on. This is all about reminding you of your power and all of the subtle ways that you give your power away, because that is truly when you can come back into wholeness, you can come back into power. You understand how to tap into the unified field, the 0 point of all creation, infinite possibilities reside, and you call all of you back in. That is when, right, you're on fire. You see all of a sudden, right, somebody that you've known for a long time, all of a sudden it's just everything is, wow, what, look at that glow up that they just had. Like, what is going on with that, right? Everything in their life is just taking off, because they've remembered that deeper aspect of themselves, and how to connect into that. And let me tell you, it's not, you know, nobody is special or better to be tapping into this. It's something that we all have the ability, right? Whether it's activating your spiritual gifts and being in your channel, or learning how to manifest your dream life, like you all have the ability. And so that's another thing, you know, that I feel like I hear often from people. Well, you know, what if I'm just not able to, what if it's just not for me? It's like, no, it is. It's your innate power and your innate ability. And so this is why sacred geometry can lead us into remembering that, because it is this energetic makeup of who we are. And there's so much power that yields within that. And so, yeah, Ava, I don't know if there's anything else you want to share, if we feel like this is a good time to start bringing in DiYeena, how you're feeling.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that. I think we're right on that at that marker.
Amazing. All right.
Yeah. So for those who are new here, I'm a trance channel, which means I take a little bit of a back seat in my body and allow DiYeena, the Pleiadian, who I have a conscious agreement with to do work in this particular way. She comes through and brings forth messages of love and light that are really relevant for humanity at this time. So I am going to go ahead and go right out and put you in touch with the Pleiadians and see what DiYeena has to say here on this whole topic of sacred geometry and everything else we've been chatting about. So here we go. Greetings. This is DiYeena. You see, the Pleiadian family, and we are here. We like to say first to bring the love. You see, especially on day like today when we are having such a hot topic. You see, we like to make sure that you all know that we are really in that frequency of love and the light. You see, and also of the earth. You see, we are going to, if you have your little sip of the earth drink we like to have together, you see, you can raise your glass. Now we will be drinking together. I have no idea what we are drinking today, but we are going to drink it. Isn't that wild? You see, most time you go and you say, well, what is this we're having? Or you make it yourself. You see, DiYeena just gets to like a crapshoot. You see, we never know what we're going to get, but we trust that the Ava would not give us something too disgusting. You see, so we are going to take a little sip and see what we have today. Well, you must have been talking for quite some time because it's a little bit cold here, but it is still delicious. You see, we can taste a little bit of rose, perhaps a little bit of herbaceousness. This is very sweet and delicious. Not sweet taste, but just sweetness in the frequency. Well, very lovely. We trust. You can type in the chat. If that is a thing, we don't even know if this is a thing on the what we are doing. But if that's a thing, you can tell us what you are drinking too. You see, maybe that is not a thing. If it's not a thing, then we'll just let it go, you see. But if it's a thing, let's see it, because we would love to hear what everyone is drinking, because it is so fun, you see. It is a good way, you see. to get connected and see, and maybe get some ideas. Maybe we can give Ava some new ideas of recipes, you see, for DiYeena. You see, that would be very nice. Or you can maybe get a little bit mailing address and ship her your favorite things, you see, to drink. You see, we're just giving all kinds of suggestions now, you see. We're going to maybe get back on track, you see. We're talking about the formation of life, you see, the formation of life, you see, which is infinite in the form, infinite in the constructs, and infinite in the possibility. You see, this is what we are chatting about. Is this correct?
Yes.
Yes, my dear. So there are plenty of ways to go in this conversation, infinite in fact. So where would you like to go, my dear? Or do you want to just riff like we usually do?
Yeah, I would love to just riff on, what we've really been speaking on is the power of sacred geometry and understanding these patterns, and really the purpose and the intention behind that is to empower our viewers to remember that they are these powerful creators, that they have the ability to bring and illuminate the infinite amount of possibilities for them to tap into. So anything that you want to share on that, anything that's coming up, and then I have some other questions that I can ask a little later.
Yes, well, you had such a nice discussion so far. It's very good, you see. And what we'll add to it, you see, is the intentionality behind whatever it is that you are, whatever direction you are moving into, especially when we are using the specific of these symbols. You see, we are using within our own form. You see, we are using that apparent outside the form, which is really an illusion. You see, there is no such thing. You see it outside the form. You see it is all you. You see, but you want to pretend we can do. So pretending that it is outside, you see, well, then you have what you call intention that is creating a specific outcome, you see. So this is really important to be mindful of as you are working with any type of symbols, you see, is what is the intention, you see, because the symbol is the symbol. The symbol is, see, all of creation is neutral in its essence, you see. The humans have the power to give it the meaning, you see, give it the emotionality, the intentionality is what gives it the power in one direction or the other. Is this making sense to you?
Yes.
Yes. So it is very important then that you are working within within whatever. See, there is no right and wrong. So there's a tricky discussion, you see, because we cannot say, oh, well, just always be in the light and the love and you'll be good to go, you see, because that is not necessarily that's only half the story, right? So you have both sides of the spectrum, you see, and you have consciousness fractals on both sides of the spectrum playing out the polarity so that we can even play in this world, you see. So you can have the love and the light. So we can have the experience of the love and the light. Well, they have to have the other end as well, you see. So everyone playing their role, you see, everyone playing their role. So you have to understand and know for clarity what your role is, you see. And those that are tuning into this kind of a podcast, you see, well, we can kind of guess that you're probably on the side of the light and the love, you see. So we're just going to be in that assumption. And if you're one of the ones that are slipping in just to get a little bit of a tidbit or a little tip off, you see, well, then more power to you, you see. We are doing our part, you are doing yours, and we'll just have a little dance, you see. So it is really about really understanding your power, which does come from the frequency of the heart, which does come from the emotionality, what you were touching upon a little bit. You see, that is what is creating the motion, the movement of consciousness into a particular outcome, into a particular frequency of form, you see. It is moving it in that, you see, and it is what is creating, you see. So it has to be that you are working with the emotionality in the most productive way possible. So if you are trying to, quote unquote, manifest something in your reality, well, then you have to really be a master of your emotions, you see. So you have to be completely aware of the full spectrum of your emotions and also be able to move freely along that spectrum in any direction. So you have to have had, you have to have been able to master your ability to move through those frequencies and don't have any stuckness in the field on any particular emotion. So some of us have, lots of us actually in this particular dimension, have some stuck emotions in our frequency. Repressed anger, for example, repressed grief, for example, repressed sadness, you see, repressed worry, you see, or cyclical worry, for example, things that we are holding on to because they are serving some particular purpose, you see. So the worry keeps us in a particular state of being and gives us an illusion of control over the situation. For example, it's just one example, you see, but we are working these emotions and we are not free of them. We are not in the freedom frequency of with the emotion. So we are not masters of the emotion. We are being mastered by the emotion. Very different, you see. And so you have to be able to, first and foremost, free the emotions in your form that have been stuck in there. And the way that they get stuck is because they have you have given them a job. You have given them a job to have in your field. So they are playing out that job until you tell them that the job is done. The work is done. We don't have any more work to do, no more pay for you, you see, because the job is done, complete. You see, so until you make that choice point, you see, you're going to have these emotions that are either repressed because you are pushing them down, because you are fearful of X, Y, or Z. And so you are telling that storyline, you see, that it is not safe to let that out, you see. And so you are holding on to these pieces, and they are having power over you rather than the other way around, that you are able to master those frequencies, you see. So that is the first level of manifestation, is we all have to be masters of the emotional realm, you see. And you have to start by making sure that you do not have any stuck emotions in the frequency of your own field, you see. So once you have that part taken care of, and this is a big ask for many people, once you have that part taken care of, only then can you begin to play on the realms that you have been talking about the whole conversation, you see. So this is all very fine and good in theory, you see. But when in practicality, it actually takes a fine level of mastery to be able to work in this particular way. It takes a very high skill level of working through subtle layers of consciousness within the ego construct, where you have worked through these pieces of understanding that you are simultaneously all of it and none of it at the same time, you see. And when you can come to that level of understanding, not just understanding with the mind, but understanding in the field, meaning everything is moving and flowing without the hooks and attachments in it, you see, you are able to move in any direction. You are able to hold on. You are able to express and work in the frequency of holy anger, for example, for a particular purpose, and let it be what it is, you see. And there's no other things holding on to that, you see. You're able to work in the experience of grief, you see, for the moment of a moment where that would be appropriate, you see, within the human realm. But you are choosing to experience these things simply because of the positionality of the fractal, honestly. And then you are moving through that simply because that was the experience that was chosen, not because there is any alternative motives within the form that are asking for a codependent relationship with those particular emotions. You see, so all the emotions that we experience within the form that are kind of in their stuckness or in their repetitive patterning are really a codependent relationship, you see, that we have with these things, you see. And so with these emotions, you see, so we have to free ourselves from codependency and working in these ways of codependency with our emotional frequencies, you see. And so this is really the first layer for most people when we talk about manifesting, is you cannot be a good manifester if you are still working with trapped emotions in the form. You see, so you have to do this clearing first. You have to work within this frequency. And it really takes some time for most humans. This is not just a over a denied type of thing. It can happen like that. It can happen. So we're not going to say never, because this is never the case, you see, haha. But it does happen for certain people. But for the majority, the ways through appear very, that there is a timing to that, you see. So this was really the first part, you see. Is this making sense to you, my dear?
Yes, absolutely. It's really learning how to create the space within, because even to tap into the 0 point of all creation that we're even, expressing, it's creating some space to even know how to navigate, to tap into those aspects. And that's through feeling, that's through diving into the deeper healing work. And, we can even call it, shadow work, which is like the buzzword for it, of really going into the depths of the places that these emotional places are really hooked into, to release that out of the body, so that when we are then in this maybe expanded consciousness and awareness, that we can move freely through life of still experiencing grief and still experiencing these emotions that are coming up, but we're not actually in a codependent relationship anymore. So we're not hooking that emotion into anything. We can just simply feel it and let it move through and release it. And that allows us to create the space to be tapping into this expanded awareness, like you said, we're everything and we're nothing and everything in between. Am I getting that correct?
Precisely. And that's the secret ingredient, you see. So that is the actual power, you see, is the ability to channel the emotions without the attachment, you see. So it is actually the power of it, you see. So the stronger the ability you have to pull through the emotional frequency through the form with no hookies, you see, it's really clean. You see, the more you're able to hold that in the fullness of the frequency, the intensity of it, you see, the stronger the manifestation power is. You see, there's more power, there's more ampage, you see, to work with there. So it's like revving up, you see. There's more light frequency going on there. There's the higher heightened emotional capacity, which is what moves it through. So it is really the necessity of it, you see. But if there are still the hooks, you see, well, then it's like having your hair caught in the drain, you see. There's nothing going very far, you see. It's kind of similar like that, you see. So the emotional part is very much the key here, the unlocking for many people, for most of us, you see, is really clearing out the emotional field first and foremost, you see. And then you can begin to work on the geometrical patterning to be able to go hip hop all over the place, you see. And then you are the cool one. If we can just go all day long, all around, you see. But you have to be able to work through the emotional field first, you see. This is the key. This is the key.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, I know that from my own experience as well. When I really started to deep dive into all of this work, the first thing that came forth was I must stop utilizing all of the things where I'm numbing myself to not feel, so I can really go into the depths of feeling everything that is here for me, so I can start to create the space to even have the ability to go into these aspects and places. And so, also knowing that, um, there's an empowering place to also understand that anything that you're moving through, right? You have the ability to really be held and supported, not only by yourself, but also by the unseen realms, right? Our unseen teams. And this was something that was so big for me, of really feeling like I was going through these bigger aspects all alone, right? I was really alone through these places. And that's why I love having you here, DiYeena, is just to remind everyone that there's so much support. And so if you feel like you're moving through an aspect, right, there's some feelings coming up or whatever it may be, reach out for physical support, and also know that you can, tune in and really call in the support from your guides and those that are really here to work with you from the highest aspects of truth and unconditional love as well.
Yes, you can always call on the Pleiadians, you see. So if you are here listening to this podcast, you're probably feeling a little bit connected to this group of beings here, you see. And we are here. We've been here for the humans for a very long time, you see. And we are here for all of you that would simply ask, you see. So just know that we are here like wise old grandmother here that just want to put your head in the lap, you see, brush your hair or whatever you need, you see. You can fix you bubble bath, you see, whatever you need, you see. We are here for that, you see. We are here to support as much as we can, you see. So just simply ask and you will feel our presence, you see. It is really like that. It can be that simple. We can be there while you sleep, you see, in the dreamland, you see. We can be there during your day, during the hard moments, for hard conversations, you see. For anything like this, just ask for the support, you see. And you will receive it, you see. This is really as simple as it is. Whether you have the intuitive lights on enough to experience the awareness of that reality or not is not so important, you see. Just having the trust that when you call, we are here, you see. That is really the main thing.
Yeah, and it's so true. The DiYeena, the Pleiadians first came through to me 14 years ago, and the amount of immense support that I've felt from the Pleiades, and the connection and the learnings and the teachings and the wisdom, all of those aspects have just been, and I wouldn't be where I am on my journey today without it. And so knowing that, right, we are in this free will construct. And so that if you're desiring to call in your guides to have that support, knowing that you need to actually call them in, right? And making sure that you're calling in those that are working with the highest truth, love, and light as well. Beautiful. So I would love to start talking about the actual symbols themselves, DiYeena, because there's been a few aspects of how you were even saying, right, we can choose to work with any of these symbols in whatever way we desire, right? It's really this neutral construct until we put meaning to it, and we are in a reality of light and dark. And through these different symbolisms, right, they can be utilized for light, and they can also be utilized for dark. And for an example, I'll use Metatron's cube, where one of the platonic solids in Metatron's cube is ether, right? It's the dodecahedron that's connected to ether, which is all life, right? And then they also use that symbol in the atomic bomb because it's one of the most powerful formations that can be used, where literally the atomic bomb can't exist without the dodecahedron within it. And so that just shows how powerful these teachings, these symbols are, and then what is the intentionality, what we're pouring into it. And are we using it for the light? Are we using it for the dark? Like, what are we really choosing into here? Because it's my understanding, right, that the darker aspects, the more shadowy realm, kind of in this this three-dimensional realm that we're in, they know a lot about all of these, they're using all of these tools. And how we were even speaking earlier of understanding how to use sex and union to really light up the whole grid of manifestation. There's darker agendas that know how to use that in a distorted way as well. And so I guess my question in this is, what do you have to share about the symbols themselves, especially around sacred geometry? Is there anything that you want to bring up when I just share that aspect of, like, it can be utilized for the light and for the dark?
Yes, my dear. Well, you very much said it, you see. But what we'll say, you see, is the same thing, you see. You have to understand that when we say that infinite possibility, we really genuinely mean it, you see. We genuinely mean it. So you think about all the symbols in the entirety of creation, you see, in all the different worlds, light language, you see, all the different Reiki symbols, you see, all the different symbols of the letters in all the different languages. You see some of them having power, some of them not so much. You see some of them very activated. Some of them, very used, so some of these symbols that we would consider sacred images, you see, like you say, used for both the light and the dark, you see. So within all of this, you see, it is really, you have to look at the frequency of the pattern itself, you see. And a lot of this can be done through meditation itself, or simply the contemplation of the images. So if you're looking at these symbols, these images, they begin to come to life, you see. If you really, truly ponder the frequency of these formations, you see, whatever the formation, there is a frequency to all formation, you see. And so you have to really be willing to tune into the frequency and the power of that potential, because it is all potential power, because again, it is all neutrality until we choose to do something with it, you see. But there's still power in the neutrality, you see. But whether it gets to be to go to the light or the dark, is that what coming from the emotionality, you see, and the power that we put behind the emotionality. So the intensity, you see. So you would see that the vibration, right, the frequency, the energy itself You see, that is what creates the power itself. So you have a lot of it, all of a sudden you have a bomb, you see. Or you have a lot of it, you are lighting up the entirety of creation, you see. It can go in either direction, you see. And so you have to look at, so you have the spheres themselves, you see, well, that is creating, it's looking at what is happening there. Where is the energy going, you see? Where is it going, you see? So it's sphering around and around and around, you see. So it is going in a specific directionality, you see. It is going in a specific movement, a pattern of movement, you see. You look at the dodecahedron, you see, you have the angularity, for example. You have to look at the actual, what is happening there within the frequency of the angularity, you see. So you have to be really willing to go into it and feel into the power that these forms have, you see. And really feel into the frequency of the movement of these particular forms. So what directionality are they moving into? Feel into the symbol themselves of what directionality is happening there, you see. What is it really, what is the potential of utilizing that symbol for creative power, for creative direction? If you were to put an energetic, an intention, and an emotion behind it, feeling into what the creative potential could be within that particular symbol, you see. Because it has to do with the movement and consciousness for the particular imprint of the symbol itself, you see. So we have all these different symbols. And you're right, we have light agendas, we have dark agendas, we have neutral agendas, we have it's a mixed bag, you would say, mixed bag. So you have that. So you can say that all the symbols, you see. Reiki is a great example. And this is not maybe so well known, you see. So we'll talk about it, you see, because we overheard your conversation a little bit, and we have brought this up recently on one of the inner circle, the little shows that we do for the membership. You see, we had a little conversation about this one, because the Reiki symbols, you see, not so much, they are very heavily used, you see, right? You get on the spiritual kick, all of a sudden you're like, oh, going to be a Reiki master. That's probably the first thing we do, right? To get the check box on that. What we say, okay, now we are Reiki master, we are very spiritual, right? This is the first thing we all do. Okay. So this is something that was known by certain agendas, that this is, okay, this is low-hanging fruit. You see, people that are maybe just getting going with it, maybe don't have the depth of the spiritual understanding quite yet. You see, they're still a little bit newbies. You see, not everyone, you see. But in general, this is kind of the trend, you see. So the symbols themselves, originally, very, very powerful. You see, very, very powerful. Since then have been tampered with slightly, you see, maybe not so slightly at this point, you see. So there's some residue around these symbols, you see. Do not use symbols willy-nilly. If you're going to use symbols, any symbol at all, we recommend that you first and foremost are clearing the frequency back to its original blueprint form, you see. And you simply just do that by asking it to be so, you see. You just clear any frequencies there, any imprints, you see, so that you're just tuned into the actual frequency of the energetics itself. So you're not working with anything that's been put on top of it, any kind of thing. So we were talking about imprints before, no overlays, you see. So you're not working with the overlays. So with the Reiki, you just want to work specifically straight with the source energy. You don't need to go even use the symbols, you see. Just be in that frequency of that fiery love and light, you see. That can be the healing frequency and force, you see. If you're really, really attached to using the symbols, you find them very, very useful, you see. But just knowing that there is some tampering, you see, that has been done. And so you have to really work with care to make sure that you are cleansing out those frequencies, you know, of the distortion. And this is true really for most symbols, that there is distortion in the symbols, you see. So we would recommend that all symbols, that you are really working with the purity of the form itself, you see, and that you are asking for any imprints to be removed, you see, as you are working with them. And this is really true for anything, you see. And then you are working with the purity of it, you see. And so you can create any meaning you want with any symbol, you see. We have created meaning with many symbols, and there are different meanings for same symbols. How can that be? We have this all the time. You see, one One group over here will say that this symbol means this, another group over there will say it means that. Both are accurate because they give it the meaning, you see. You see how this works? So then you
Yes.
can have the same thing having two completely opposite meanings because enough humans have given power, emotional energetics to make it be so, you see. So you can use any symbol with that power, you see, because you are the one that is the power. Isn't that the fascinating part?
Mm. Yes, and that's a reminder for everyone to remember how powerful that they actually are.
Precisely. That's the whole point.
Yes.
That's the whole point, my dear.
Beautiful. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that about symbols and just reminding everyone to really clear the symbols, bringing them back into the original blueprint, and really being mindful of the energetics when you're, even learning or getting attunements, the agreements energetically and spiritually that you're agreeing to, that there is a purity within it. Now, I have a question for you, DiYeena, and this is something that came forward to me some time ago. But there's a theory that within symbols or formations, to not move in angles, that angles actually create stuck energy, and that we should always be moving or focusing in a circular formation. And there's a thought that moving in angles are actually what's keeping us, what I've heard, and I'm just gonna share what I've heard. Not that I believe this, because I feel like it is a disempowered kind of thought pattern, but that that moving in angles through the formations of symbols. I don't even know if this is gonna make sense, but this is just kind of something that's come through. Not my channel, but from outside sources, is that it actually keeps us trapped in this three-dimensional construct. And so I don't know if that makes sense, or if you can speak into that, or if you want me to say that in a different way.
Well, it does make sense to me.
Yeah.
And we can understand how one might hypothesize that, you see, or maybe even have that experience, you see. But there are some assumptions that are being made here.
Like the
See,
triangle, for example, just to make it easy for somebody.
sure, we can use the triangle, you see, for example, you see, because it's not a circle. You see, these are the two things. So you're looking at the what you had up, the Metatron's cube. You see, we have both of those kind of things, you see. So you can look at the circles, you can look at the triangles, or the dodecahedron, or however you want to look at it. You see, you have both options. You see, you have the roundness, you have the edges there. So what do we have here? Do we have light and dark, good and bad, right and wrong, all in one thing? Well, of course you do. Of course you do, because it is the whole in the sum and the whole, right? It is the all in the nothing in the all. You see, it is the macro to the micro. It is everything in one. You see, all in one. Everything is a reflection of everything. You see, so it is all. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot have part without the whole, you see, and you cannot have whole without the part, you see. And so within that context, you see, you're asking about the angularity specifically, you see, and the potentiality of stuckness within dimensionality. And you could say that that is particularly possible. You see, it is partly true. But you are making the assumption that that is a negative thing. You see, that is not part of the design. You see, so what we'll say about that is that you are that is when we come to any kind of angularity. That is what we were talking about, is decision point. You see, within the pattern of the whole. You see, and this is for any form. You see, is when there are angularities. Everything is either an angle, a line, or a circle, right? You either have curved or straight line within the entirety of the form, you see, one or the other, you see, but you cannot have creation without both, you see. So you have to have, you cannot say that only the curved lines are the good ones and that the straight lines are the bad ones, you see, because then we have, it's not quite the balanced perspective, you see, because you have both within both, you see. So you can look at it both perspectives. You could say, well, the curved lines are the bad and the straight lines are the good. You see, we could do it that way too. You see, you could do both ways. But really, from the bigger perspective, you see, you have to understand that whenever you are at an angle, you see, you are at a choice of dimensionality. You see, so there is the it's a deliberate decision. That is the thing, you see. It is a deliberate decision to experience that particular dimensionality within consciousness, you see. How long you choose to stay? Some make a big heyday of it. They go hang out on the beach and sip margaritas for a long time, you see. Others, they just get on a jet plane and they just pass by very quickly, you see. So it just depends on what it is that you are wanting to experience as an individualized fractal. But it does not mean that you are getting stuck and that's a bad thing, you see, or that you're getting trapped in that particular dimension and that is a bad thing, you see. It is really we always have the free will to move. You see, it is really simple. It's not that you're in a sand trap and you're getting sucked into the quicksand and you cannot get out, you see. That's not happening. You see, it is not like that. But it is a point of choice. You see, it is simply a point of choice, you see. And it is a point where you have the option to stay a while if you like, you see, if you choose, you see. But it is not doomsday. You do not have to stay there forever. And this is where we talk about with the doomsday with the president and all those things earlier, you see, that is the option depending on the emotionality of it, you see. So also if you are holding in a specific emotion, especially if you are having a negative experience of, oh, I'm trapped. Well, then guess what? You are trapped, you see. See how that works? So we get to create our experience around that, and you have the choice to play it in that way, you see. You also have the choice to play it of, oh, I'm going to go and have the margaritas on the beach, you see. And perhaps that is fun for some people, you see. So it gets to be what you choose it to be, you see. But it is not so black and white doomsday or yes or no in that particular way. Is this making sense to you, my dear?
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. And, I love how you just explained all of that, because the feeling, so this was, somebody had shared this with me, and then I did a little research and was like, oh, wow, there's a big group of people that feel this way. And so I'm going to tune into this. And when I specifically tuned into it, especially around Metatron's cube, what came through was, well, yeah, the triangles, right, represent the, air, water, earth, fire. And those constructs are a lower density because it's the tangible reality that we're seeing. And so it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just the energetic computer coding that makes up the fabric of our reality. It's the ones and zeros that create this construct. And we do choose to come here. And the message that I had that come through was, this is the symbol of all life here. And there is imprints of information within it that exists within us that are showing us the way forward of this evolutionary period that we're moving through. With what you said, right? It's there is a divine design. There is, there's many ancient prophecies that are stating like we are evolving into a higher state of consciousness. And when that shift happens, then what came through was then the construct of reality, we'll just say computer coding, so that makes sense to people so they understand what I'm saying, right? That coding then will shift as we evolve the state of consciousness, and then our reality around us can shift as well. And so it's not that it's holding us here. It's the sacred architecture of just what is.
Well, precisely.
Yeah.
Yes, and you could say that it is holding us here, you see, but that is not a bad thing, you see.
Not against our will.
No, not at
Yeah.
all, but because that is the construct of the original. You have the 13 spheres, you see, you have the 13 dimensions. It is the original blueprint of the human form, you see, within the dimensionality of who you are in this construct, you see. So it is actually, it is just the blueprint of the human, you see. And it is where you are choosing to go within that, you see, and what dimensionality you are choosing to put your awareness, you see. But it is not bad because it is you see. So you cannot box it in that way and then pretend that we are going to only be aware of certain aspects and then claim that the other ones are not so great, you see. have to be willing to really understand the full dimensionality of the human and really understand that it is actually there to provide a little bit of a, what is the right word? You see, we want to say the word protection, but it is not quite the right frequency, but we don't know the English word, you see. But anyway, it is like almost creating a little bit of maybe an energy ball or bubble that is really just the containment of the human being experience of the multidimensionality within the first 13 dimensions, you see. So you are infinite in dimensionality, you see, but there is a special uniqueness about the 13, you see, within the form of the blueprint of the physicality of your dimensionality, you see. That is a more contained within the construct of what you consider your physical form, within the dimensionality of what you consider these 5 platonic solids, for example. You see, it works within that roadmap, that blueprint, you see. So that is the construct that has been given to the human, you see. So that is what is, and that is what your bodies are made of, you see. Lines and curves, you see, both. See, so you cannot say that one is bad and one is not good, not good, and one is good, you see. It is the creation. It is simply how you are created, you see. And so to say, well, if we go over here and then we get a little stuck, well, it is not stuckness, you see. It is simply attention. It is awareness. It is one-pointedness, which can be very good, you see, to have a focus, you see. You are coming into the masculine point then, you see. The feminine points are the circles, you see. The masculine points are these edges here of focus pointing, where there is the manifesting potential. This is the parts where we get to create, you see, where we get to really make the decisions, you see. That is where we have those masculine energetics, you see. And then you have the feminine form holding those frequencies, you see. So you have to have the balance, you see. Is it making sense to you, my dear?
Yes, no, it makes perfect sense. And so thank you for sharing that and I think it always comes back to this one place of whatever we give meaning to is the meaning that we give it to, because that is, or is the meaning that it takes on through our own individual lens, at least.
Precisely.
And that's what makes us powerful creators.
Precisely. And that is the beauty of it, because you can say, well, one person over here has this perspective and this other person over here has this opposite perspective. They cannot both be right, you see. But guess what? They are, you see. Even if it seems to be in the mind, one is definitely right and one is definitely wrong, you see. It is only a perspective in consciousness, you see. And we all have the free will to hold those different perspectives of consciousness, even how wrong it may appear through the other perspective, you see. The other perspective very much sees it as right, you see. And that is the duality and the polarity of the world that we are constructed into, you see. And that is the beauty of it, you see. So you have to be willing to hold all of it, you see. That is the beauty. That is the beauty.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, DiYeena, just for everything that you shared with all of us this evening. Those are all the questions that I had. I don't know if there's anything else that you feel like is wanting to come through for viewers, or if that feels like all that you have for everyone this evening.
Yes, well, we always love to be in communion with all of you, you see, because it is really a blessing. You see, it's a blessing in this particular time in our history. Is a very, very special time. It's a beautiful time to be alive. It is an exciting time to be alive. It is an exciting time to be on Earth. You see, we have so many souls from all over the cosmos coming to Earth right now on this particular moment, to witness this particular expansion in consciousness, because it is so relevant to everything. And you are a part of that. You are a part of that. You've signed up for this mission to really be involved in this particular way of elevating the consciousness, or not only for our planet, but for the entirety of creation. You see, so we honor you for your role that you are playing. Every single one of you is playing an important role. So thank you for being here, for raising your vibration and your frequency by tuning into DiYeena here with the Pleiadians and being aware of the 13th dimensional field here, you see. Not to say that we don't go beyond that. We are infinite in multidimensionality, you see, but we are really bringing awareness to the 13 because it is really activating the remembrance of your power as a human creator. So may you be blessed to be in the power of your original form. May you be blessed to be in the power of your creative endeavors, and may you be your powerful creators, and may you be illuminated in the love and the light, to be really blessed to be creating what it is that not only you desire, but what we co-create together here in our new earth, as we are all raising in frequency to match that frequency that is already here. We bless you all very much from the Pleiadian family of light.
Beautiful. Welcome back, Ava. Thank you so much, DiYeena and the Living Ma, just sending them all so many blessings. Thank you all for being here with us this evening and tuning in. As DiYeena was speaking into, we have an online membership. So if this resonates, if you want to dive a little deeper, if you want to come into more of an intimate experience, the information for that will be down in the show notes. And Ava, is there anything that you want to end with?
I just want to say that I just trust that this message was exactly what you needed to hear today, and just blessings to all of you for being here and being a part of this collective experience.
So beautiful. And if this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe so that we can continue to rise together on this ascension journey.
And we'll see you all next week on next week's episode.
Bye, everyone.